Hello, this is Lauren speaking, and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be discussing some medical astrology, dealing with the bones and the joints, and the unexpected emotional conflict that is affiliated with those areas of the body, and why somebody would take on issues in their body based on how they perceived an unexpected conflict. Now, we're also going to be studying a fascinating individual and horoscope, which is OPRAH Winfrey, because not only has she had health issues in the past, and we can see that through the natal chart, but also recently, over the past 3 years, we could say, she underwent a double knee replacement surgery. And we'll look at that, and we'll look at also what could be the potential unexpected emotional conflict that caused her specific, we could say, health issues. So whether you study astrology or you practice astrology or you're interested in astrology, there's going to be an awful lot to learn in this video. So let's get started. Let's start by just saying that, again, excuse me for repeating myself from a previous video, but for those of you who didn't see it, on the lungs, 20 years ago I wrote a book, How Emotional Conflicts Trigger Disease, an Astrological View, based on the findings of Dr. Hamer, H-A-M-E-R, what's termed the German New Medicine, or GNM. What Dr. Hamer discovered empirically is that when we perceive an unexpected emotional conflict of a shocking nature that catches us completely off guard, we could say, it can then impact upon the brain, and there is a relay to the specific organ of the body that deals with that biological conflict, and therefore this is why we would encounter, let's say, issues within the body. Now, when we're dealing with the bones and the joints, what we're dealing with here is a biological conflict that is linked to a severe self-devaluation conflict or loss of self-worth. The conflict can be experienced, for example, through humiliation, such as accusations, scoldings, derogatory remarks, abuse, whether it comes physical, sexual, or verbal, failure, such as at work or at school or in sports or in a relationship, as a parent or a partner. It can be about a poor performance. And it also can be accompanied by feelings of shame and guilt. Some other possible conflict scenarios would be such as, for example, the loss of a status, the loss of a workplace, or when people retire, or when they have an illness or an injury, as if to say to themselves, I am out of commission. It could also be potentially about aging. I'm not as good as I used to be, or I'm getting old and useless, or the loss of a person who made us feel, let's say, appreciated and needed. Now, the way that we perceive ourselves, or we speak to ourselves, such as, I am a failure, I will never succeed, this creates like a mental predisposition for having a self-devaluation conflict, or experiencing a self-devaluation conflict. It can also be brought on by other things, such as a negative prognosis, like you won't be able to walk again, okay? Or some kind of continuous pain within the bones or the joints. And we'll get into this with Oprah Winfrey. But what I want to look at is first we want to look at her natal horoscope and how we can use medical astrology to pinpoint vulnerable areas, or a predisposition, we could say, to taking on some kind of a self-devaluation conflict. Now, the first thing I want to bring to your attention when we look at Oprah Winfrey's horoscope, and I'll have the birth details, date of birth, time, place of birth in the description below if you want to create the chart yourself. But the first thing we want to look at with critical illness or with medical astrology is we want to see the ascendant and the 12th house, because the ascendant is our physical body, the 12th house deals with critical illness. And you'll notice that in Oprah's horoscope, Jupiter rules both the 12th house and the ascendant. Now I'm using, for those astrologers out there, people who study astrology, I'm using Placidus house system, and I stick with that because it works. So we're dealing here with Jupiter as the ruler of the 12th house and the ascendant. So that's got to be a sensitive point, which I'll show you that it is as we move into looking at the future. Now, the other thing that's very fascinating is there is a major aspect configuration here in her horoscope of Saturn square to the conjunction of the Sun and Venus. Now notice that the Sun and Venus are in the second house. Yes, that deals with assets and our worth, but it deals with self-worth, okay? And Saturn tends to be a restrictive, inhibiting planet that can bring upon heavy responsibilities or burdens, this kind of thing, but it certainly impacts upon her sense of identity, the Sun. And when we look at the rulers, or I should say the houses that are ruled by the Sun, Venus, and Saturn, this becomes quite fascinating and corroborates Oprah Winfrey's story that she's talked about for umpteen decades on television. Now, note that Saturn is a co-ruler of the first house, okay? Capricorn is intercepted in the first house. So her sense of identity, her physical body, is ruled by Saturn. And Venus rules the 5th house, as well as the 10th, her profession, and her status in the world, and her legacy, etc., okay? And the Sun rules the 8th house. Now, it's very interesting that Oprah's story is that she was abused, I believe sexually abused in her childhood. And the 5th house and the 8th house are the houses of sex. The 5th house has to do with children, procreation, love and relationships, sexual sharing, and the 8th house has to do with, let's say, the value and significance that we give to sex. But it's oftentimes, when we study the horoscopes of people that have been abused, sexually abused, the 8th house comes into play without a doubt, absolutely, as well as miscarriages, abortions, things like this. And I also want to bring to your attention that the 8th house, it has many different symbolisms, but one symbolism of the 8th house, because it's a very mysterious house, traditionally ruled by Scorpio, it deals with the occult, and it deals with secret societies, and it deals with these kinds of things, okay? I just bring that out to you as we get into the astrology of what could have been a potential trigger for Oprah's health concerns and health issues. And even her shaming and blaming herself, and she uses those words repeatedly, shame and blame, with regard to her weight. And her weight loss, of course, has been an obsession of hers for umpteen decades, okay? All right, so that's what we've got for a natal predisposition. It's very important to understand that, okay? Now, before we get into her knee surgery, which took place in 2021 on both knees, I want to show you how Jupiter is absolutely involved with critical illness with Oprah Winfrey, because I went back, I did research, and I saw that in 2002, when transiting Pluto was opposed Jupiter, ruler of the 12th house of critical illness and the ascendant of the physical body, it was reported that Oprah Winfrey started having heart palpitations, the previous year, 2001, leading into 2002, and doctors told her to lose weight. Here we go again with the blaming and guilt over her weight brought on by doctors. And it said here, quote unquote, her heart had begun racing so fast she couldn't sleep, and it scared her. She went to a number of doctors and found out that her blood pressure was very high. Well, there we go. Transiting Pluto was opposed Jupiter. A second time in 2019, I did research and found out that she was diagnosed with pneumonia. And in 2019, transiting Neptune was square to Jupiter. Okay, so we know without a doubt that Jupiter, when it's hit off, there is potential here for taking on some kind of an unexpected emotional conflict that impacts upon her health. Okay? Now, Dr. Halmer discovered that the unexpected emotional conflict occurs 1 to 3 years prior to physical symptoms appearing or medical diagnosis, whichever comes first. So, leading into her double knee surgery, which happened or occurred in August and November of 2021, we can already see, if we were to go back 1 to 3 years from that time, well, we can already see that, transiting Neptune was square Jupiter, okay, ruler of her 12th and her ascendant. And we already know that in 2019, the diagnosis of pneumonia, well, dealing with the lungs, please watch my previous video on the lungs, we're dealing with a death-fright conflict, but not when we're dealing with the knees here. So, astrologically speaking, in 2020, transiting Uranus would be square to the Sun and Venus, and of course to Saturn. So that important natal aspect configuration is being hit off by Uranus, starting in 2020, leading into the first 3 months of 2021. And again, remember the rulerships here. We're dealing with the 5th house and the 8th house of children, sex, potential abuse, etc. Now, interestingly enough, doing my research here, it was in March of 2020 that Oprah was affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein through a list of associations of Jeffrey Epstein. So I'm sure that when this hit the news, the mainstream media, etc., it was probably, I don't know Oprah personally, but I can imagine that would be a shock. And of course, self-devaluation, an accusation. Okay? So there we go with one potential self-devaluation conflict, which pertains to the subjects of children and sexual issues. I'll leave it at that because it's not a pretty subject to even discuss. However, understanding that her story, her makeup, her identity is linked to these issues even from childhood. And God knows what the elites, their associations are amongst themselves and what they do in private, meetings and all this kind of stuff. Not my business, not here to discuss that. I'm here to look at the astrology and what could have triggered this, okay? Now, as we move into 2021, very important that she had transiting Pluto squared in Neptune. Whenever we have a contact between Pluto and Neptune, or Neptune and Pluto, there could be something of a health concern developing of a serious nature. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, as we move into 2021, not only is the Uranus transit concluding, but in the month of March, the last hit of the Uranus transit, then Saturn goes on to conjunct the Sun. Okay? Her life force vital energy, ruler of the 8th house. And it would also simultaneously, of course, when it's conjunct the Sun and Venus, it would also square into Saturn, co-ruler of the 1st house of her physical body. Now that transit was going on all throughout 2021. It hit retrograde in August of 2021 when she had one of her knee surgeries, and it hit for the last hit in December, and the second surgery she had was in November of 2021. I will say that I tried to find out why did Oprah have knee replacement surgery, but I couldn't find anything online whatsoever regarding that. However, another unexpected emotional conflict occurred in September of 2021. That's when it was reported that a picture of Oprah Winfrey kissing Harvey Weinstein was brought out in the media. Again, the affiliation here with 5th and 8th house matters. I'm going to leave it at that. I've already said what the 5th house and the 8th house pertain to. And that's what Saturn is hitting off here. And Oprah goes and has, or is told she needs, or for whatever reason, she has a double knee replacement surgery in 2021. Okay? So we've got two potential conflicts here that could have possibly, I don't know her personally, again, could have potentially, possibly created a self-devaluation conflict of shame, of guilt, of accusations, of scoldings, of whatever it was. Even, and this is where I forgot to bring in the localization to the knees of a self-devaluation conflict, because the knees and the lower legs have to do with a physical performance conflict, self-devaluation conflict, meaning difficulties, for example, walking or climbing stairs, or not being able to keep up, or having a poor performance, such as receiving humiliating remarks by someone, not performing up to standards or to the expectations of, it could be a parent, a spouse, a coach, whatever it might be. But also feeling less mobile because of having gained weight. You see? So that's the point here, is that, again, if we could talk to Oprah, we could know more, but she talks about this nonstop, okay, about her shame and guilt of her weight, okay, and being, let's say, remarked about and talked about with this. So who knows exactly whether it was the two conflicts here, unexpected conflicts dealing with the affiliation with these individuals that were involved with children, and disgusting things. So, who knows exactly which one it is. Now, the following year in 2022, we also have some health concern issues going on here. We have transiting Neptune semi-square the Sun, leading into the start of 2023, and we also simultaneously have transiting Saturn opposed Pluto. at the same months, the same time frame between April 2022 and February 2023, and that's a very challenging aspect, Saturn to Pluto or Pluto to Saturn. And when you have it combined with a Neptune transit to your Sun, this is not easy to deal with. Okay, this can be termed like a major ego wipeout situation. All right, feeling alone, all sorts of things. Okay, so we know 2022 was not a nice year for Oprah. Okay, now in 2023, this gets a bit interesting. I did some research here and I found out that Oprah had always been against taking weight loss drugs up until like even a program that she had in September of 2023. She was advocating against that. But in December, 3 months later of 2023, she comes forward and says that she admits to starting taking weight loss drugs prior to Thanksgiving. Okay? So we know that in that time period, the last 3 months of 2023, she's taking these weight loss pills. So, or whatever she takes. At that time, interestingly enough, transiting Saturn was square to her moon. Okay? And I bring that up because it's one of the luminaries in medical astrology. When we have an outer planet transit to the sun or the moon, along with other astrological aspects, it could potentially be a warning about critical illness. Of course, you need other things going on here with the 12th house and the ascendant, etc., etc. So that's interesting. Because, and why do I bring this up? Because looking into the future, the current time now, into the future, and also one other thing to bring up here, there was a conflict, but who knows if it was perceived as unexpected emotional conflict with the fires in Maui, Hawaii, in the summer of 2023, where Oprah's house was unscathed. I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole. You can do your own research on this. But all the other area was completely burnt down to the ground. I'll leave it at that. So there's things going on here. There are definitely things going on here, without a doubt. Now, as we move into 2024, what's going on with the transits? Well, transiting Pluto now is sesquiquadrate, hard aspect, to Jupiter, ruler of the 12th house of critical illness and her ascendant. And we know from testing the past that when transiting Pluto was opposed Jupiter in 2002, she was having high blood pressure and heart issues, and who knows what else, because, you know, the public's only told so much information, okay? But we've got something going on here for Oprah between March of 2024, and that is an extended transit that's running all the way through the end of 2025. Okay? Not only that, but now transiting Neptune is going to square her ascendant simultaneously in June of 2024, leading to the very start of 2026. So she's got 2 years here of potential health concern, okay? Because in 2025, then transiting Saturn will go on to square the ascendant. So this is challenging, potentially challenging, we could say. And based on somebody who's 70 years old, God knows what she's involved with. God knows what goes on with her and her weight loss and these weight loss drugs that she's taking, how it could potentially impact her health. And again, who knows what other unexpected emotional conflicts will come to light or will come out, because, you know, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going down this rabbit hole. I just want to bring this out. It's a fascinating horoscope to study. It's fascinating that it once again corroborates medical astrology. And the importance here with Dr. Hammer's work is to resolve our conflicts as soon as possible, and resolve them not only in real terms but also in spiritual terms. So keep in mind that for your own, let's say, vigilance and protection, you have to resolve any kind of, self-esteem is not something that is highly, we're not reinforced as a child to be self-confident. It's just the opposite. We're scolded by teachers and authority figures, you're not good enough and you better do better, and this kind of thing. So, the point being is that everybody has to guard against other people gaslighting them, other people accusing them, putting them down. If you have a social group of friends that do not support and lift you up and give you compliments and push you on in a positive way, maybe you should think about associating with people that are more of your kind, okay? So I just, bring that out as one way that you can try to live a peaceful life. I think you should be very careful about who you associate with, because as the expression goes, birds of a feather flock together. Don't forget that. Okay? That means that if people see you with a certain group of people, they automatically assume you are of one of those. At any rate, I think the point being clear here, hopefully this information certainly could help Oprah, but, who knows, right? But it's a fascinating horoscope to study, and medical astrology can certainly help people, especially in connection with the German New Medicine, which understands the absolute logic and practicality and common sense of how the psyche, the brain, the physical body are all one unit working together, and that when we perceive something, and we don't all perceive in the same way, just like Oprah here, she perceives things probably based on her childhood, the way she saw herself, the diminution of self-confidence or self-worth, etc., which then spilled over to health issues, weight loss issues, etc., etc. So we all have our story, okay? But we can certainly look at the natal disposition in a horoscope to understand how something like this could impact upon someone. So I think I'm going to leave it at that without rambling on here, and I appreciate you watching this video. Hope you found it insightful. If it could be helpful to other people that are experiencing issues of like rheumatism, arthritis, all sorts of different issues, it could be helpful to them. And you'll find information in the description below this video in terms of contacting me, and if you're interested in my ebook and audiobook, How Emotional Conflicts Trigger Disease, an Astrological View. Over 50 cases of illness in that book with firsthand corroboration of what the conflict was that the people were dealing with from their words. Okay, well, thank you so much for listening. God bless, and see you on the next video. Bye-bye now.